Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to begin this evening with a question. It's an open question. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and reflections. So in life, what do you think matters more? What you do or who you are? Dun, dun, dun. What do you think matters more? Action or character or virtue? Action. The judge here says action. I would expect that, and that I think is what character I heard over here. Where'd it come from? Character, action. Let's do like sort of a vote of hands, first of all. Who says action? What you do matters more? Okay, great. Put your hands down. Who says who you are matters more? Interesting. 50-50 split. Okay, so I'd be interested to hear, if you raise your hand for what you do matters more, would anyone be willing to say their theory on why? Yes. Oh, interesting. So what you do forms your character. So it's a chicken and egg, and I'm not sure which one comes first, but in this case, your actions are what births your character, okay? Or expresses it, okay? Jeannie? So they're very related, but Jeannie suggests that she believes it is your character that produces what you do. And again, so chicken and egg, or if a tree falls in the forest, whatever those situations are. Yeah. Okay. If you accept the theory that do no harm is an overriding value, then what you do is by far more important than who you are, if you accept that theory. And then we'll take one more counter voice. Yes, Helen? And which one do you think is predicated on the other? Great. So the action creates the person that you are. So we could go on and on and on, but you guys have dinner plans. So we'll jump into something that might help us come to an answer to this question. So I'd like to invite you to consider this week's Torah portion, Ki Tisa. You likely know this Torah portion because it's super famous. It's the story of the sin of the golden calf. Heard this story before, maybe saw the movie The 10 Commandments, get your own imagery in your mind about what that's like, right? So you know this story. After the people haven't seen Moses for quite a long time, he's been up on the mountain getting all the commandments for them. The people basically determine that they need some sort of visible leader, something to represent a way for them to go. And so they call upon Aaron to build for them the sculpture of a golden calf. Aaron obliges, Moses' brother, obliges, and in a frenzy, our ancestors bow down and worship what they've created. It is literally the number one no-no in the book, idolatry. When God takes note of what's been going on, the people, as you might remember, are severely punished. But here's the interesting part. What offense are the people punished for? Do you know? It's an open question. What? What offense are they punished for? What? Bowing down to a golden, right, which is idolatry. Yes, Nathan, bar mitzvah boy extraordinaire. Okay, good. Yeah, so maybe being materialistic, right? So some sort of thing that has to do with the worship of this golden calf. They worshipped gold instead of God. I gave a little bit away of your Devar Torah for tomorrow, Nathan. It's a really good line he wrote in his Devar Torah. For those of you who will be there tomorrow, you will see. But it's interesting. In the Torah, when God cites why God will punish the people, it isn't for any act they do. Instead, it is for the reason of the people being something that the Torah calls kashay oref, stiff-necked. The Israelites may have committed the crime of idolatry or materialism, but God punishes them not for their sinful act, but instead for the quality of their character, or in this case, the lack thereof, their haughty and stubborn nature. And so, as one of the most renowned Jewish scholars of the 19th century, Rabbi Natan Tzvi Finkel notes, say that 3 times fast, he says the following: from here, meaning from this designation, we see that a defect in character is even worse than a defect in action, more serious even than a grave sin like idolatry. So character flaws prove more serious than sinful acts because from a spiritual frame, they alter who we are on the deepest level. Our actions, according to this way of thinking, are symptoms of the truth of who we are. So a sinful act may be a problem, but the real concern is the underlying condition of the person's character that birthed that act in the first place. So many of you who've ever taken a class with me about prayer will know that I'll say to you, all that matters in Judaism is action, what you do in the world. The stuff internal to you is not of a priority. And I'm about to contradict everything I've ever taught you. Although Judaism is indeed a religion that is made manifest through action, the mitzvot, the commandments we choose to do as Reformed Jews, Jewish tradition is designed to be concerned not just with what we do, but moreover with who we are and who we might or could become. And since Jewish tradition insists that each of us possesses free will, we need to understand that our free will is applicable not just in terms of the actions we choose to take, but it also applies to the people we choose to be in every moment. What this means is, unlike those who proffer that character is determined and fixed at birth, you know, those who say, once a so-and-so, always a so-and-so, Jewish tradition insists that while we cannot control the way others are in the world, we absolutely can control the character we choose to cultivate for ourselves in our lives in every moment we breathe. And because the only factor required to access free will is the ability to breathe, we cannot play the "that's just how I am" card and expect to get a hall pass. Here's the thing, though. Fixing faulty character traits proves a lot harder than apologizing for bad actions or sins alone. So how do we begin to do this work of character refinement? We're likely familiar with the Jewish mode of addressing sinful actions, namely the practice of teshuvah, that repentance, atoning thing we do at the high holiday time every year, in which through self-reflection and focus on our poor behavior, we identify our missteps, apologize, and make atonement for them, doing our best to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes again. But while we might then assume that teshuvah processes would apply to character refinement, in fact, the character repair system proves a little bit different. To do the work of character improvement, we are taught to direct our energies not toward excising the negative, but instead toward strengthening our cultivation of the positive virtues we hope to possess. Think less on calorie restriction and more on strength training, sort of that idea. Literally, it's the same way of thinking. So what this means, if you've become self-absorbed, you might begin the work of cultivating humility through the acts that stress the importance of others over yourself. And if you have become judgmental and cruel, for example, you might begin the work of cultivating kindness by doing kind, compassionate things. Of note here is that the vehicle to refining character is action. Positive behavior yields better character, which then yields more better behavior, which in turn deepens better character, and so on and so forth in a virtuous cycle. So while our sinful behaviors may only be symptoms of more foundational flaws in our character, the cultivation of virtuous acts is the vehicle that we can employ to help us bolster the positive characters of our souls. Maimonides taught the following: as God is called gracious, so should you be gracious. As God is called merciful, so shall you be merciful. As God is called holy, so shall you be holy. Not act, but be, become, exemplify, personify. In interpreting this notion, modern scholar Rabbi Shai Held points out that good character is manifest in good behavior, and good behavior in turn helps to instill good character. And what that means is that character change doesn't need to wait for years and years of therapy or for the cumulative buildup of exponentially more positive energy than negative for the change to begin. Character change starts simply by having the strength to do one virtuous act. Pick up a pebble and drop it in the water. That is all it takes to begin. So let's return to that original question. What matters more? What you do or who you are? And the answer is yes. Because the two are inextricably bound to one another, but one is not subjugated to the other. Make no mistake, Jewishly speaking, character matters, not just because it influences our actions, but because it matters in and of itself. Why? Because if we are to understand that each of us is created in the image of God, then it is not just what we do that reflects this, but more importantly, it is who we are that ultimately animates the divine in our world, all around us, every day, everywhere we go, every breath we take. Shabbat Shalom.